edition of Pages Promotions Virtual Book Festival Autumn 2020, a production of Indie Reads TV. We find our home on CNM TV in Troy, Michigan, and we're very grateful for their airtime. Today, we are doing a special reading with Xander Cross. He's just an incredible author of this really cool Japanese folklore stuff. It's amazing. Last conversation we had with Xander, we got into the backstory of his work. Today he's going to do a reading for us, and then we'll have time for questions and answers after. So, hey, Xander, welcome.
Hey.
Thank you for participating in our pre-Halloween extravaganza nonsense. We appreciate it.
Thank you, and in the spirit of Halloween.
Yay! I want to see the tail.
Ears.
I want to see the tail. Can you show us the tail? There you go. There's the tail.
This tail took 10 months every night to make. This thing is super
insane.
long, super plush, and this is sewn onto a yarn, a braided piece of yarn, weft by weft by weft.
Yeah, you got more patience than I do.
Yeah, I bled for that. I don't know how it's not done it in blood because I just poked my finger so many times.
Oh my God.
But I can but it's not like a pillow, you can move it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think your costume's fantastic, and I love all of the graphics that you're putting up on social media to help promote your books. I think it's just amazing. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
We appreciate you coming. We're going to do, as I said, Xander's going to do a little bit of reading for us, and then we're going to do Q&A afterward. So if everybody will turn off their microphones right now so we get a nice, quiet, clean reading, and then we'll open them back up. So Xander, you're going to start, first of all, which book are you reading from?
All right, so I am reading from The Origin of the White Wind.
And that's the first book in the series, correct?
Is book one of the Atlas Dystopia Apocalyptica, which is my way of saying this is the map of how our world became unmade.
Perfect. So I'm going to give you the mic, Xander. Go ahead and read away. And then afterward, as I say, we'll open up the room.
All right.
Thank you.
Take 1 second. There are two worlds. One that is bright and solid, which most think of as reality. But there is another world that exists beside it, beneath it, and all around it. This is the Shadow Realm, the dark universe, a terrifying place of horror and madness. The way into it is through the shadows that creep wherever light casts them, the dark places between the buildings and at the end of lonely corridors, in corners and under furniture, always stretching, seeking. These places are the portals between the worlds of light and darkness. And this realm too has its denizens who live and dwell among the shadows. They lurk in these unsanctified spaces, the hungry eyes that watch, the arms that grab, reaching out to snatch prey back into the darkness. The unfortunate go missing year after year without a trace. It is instinctual to feel it, the unease which shivers up the spine, serving as an early warning that an intruder stands at the threshold between the worlds. Everyone knows this is where monsters live, regaled in the folklore of all cultures since time immemorial. In the domains of the farthest east, these beings have been called many names: Ayakashi, Bakemono, Mononoke, and Yokai. Call them spirits, or demons, or even a type of fairy. For thousands of years, these otherworldly creatures have existed alongside mankind. And whether benevolent, malevolent, or neutral, all such encounters are generally not recommended. Yet that does not stop the blurring at the worlds at the edge of twilight, and for those humans and yokai who are forced to live together, virtually impossible. Take, for example, those who live in the great urban cities from the olden days of Edo up through the dawn of the early 22nd century. As climate change and rising sea levels altered the landscape, humans conglomerated in the megapolises to survive the poisoned world they had made. Thus, the shadows of the great cities became the perfect underworld playground for demons and monsters to seek their prey. It was the dragon's law that such encounters, it was the dragon's law that such creatures should no longer be seen except by true believers, magic practitioners, and wishful thinkers. There were those in the know, whose businesses or situations directly touched the yokai world. These mortals were called the sanctioned, and they could be found at all levels of society, from the poor noodle shop owner who spied the tofu kotsu across the street, to the wealthiest man in New Tokyo who tithed to the dragon directly. The year was 2099 by the world calendar. It was a place of dark and forbidding oppression, of perpetual gloom and dank misery, with extremes in temperature and wealth disparity. In short, the world was a feast for demonkind to prey upon the counted misfortunes of the mortal, who brought it upon themselves through greed and exploitation. But opportunity is where you seize it, of course, a fact no yokai can deny. I certainly could not. Who am I, might you ask? My name is Hayate, and I am of the White Fox clan Daisuke, and this is where my story began a long, long time ago. And that's the prologue. So we're going to move to about 20 years later, and the year 2119, and this is where Hayate is now already in New Tokyo, and I want to start here. So with nowhere to go and nothing to do until the cage opened, I cloaked myself in the appearance of a wealthy man and explored the inmet. None the wiser that there was a demon in their midst, multitudes of people drifted by me going about their evening commute. No one paid me any heed. I was just another bland face among the herd of my favorite prey animal, and they were far too concerned with themselves, their electronic playthings, and looking at other attractive human beings. At the edge of dusk, I went to the top of the tallest building in my immediate vicinity by way of warping myself up there. I uncloaked into my standard preferred form and stood rebelliously on the topmost point. From this precarious vantage, I took my measure of the lay of the land. New Tokyo was huge. There seemed to be no end to it. The city simply went on and well into the horizon, vast canyons of glittering buildings with streets like well-ordered riverbeds between. I began to do some serious thinking as the sun steadily set on that magnificent view. Who was I now? What was I becoming? How was I to survive and stay me? I did not really know the answer to any of those questions, but I knew what I did not want to be, some damn common yakko bereft of all conscience. I asked myself what my boundaries were, which lines I must avoid crossing if at all possible. Then and there, I composed my new personal code of ethics, the rules by which I, a former Zenko, would live. Accordingly, the list itself formed into simple sentences I could reach for as a mantra, if I felt myself losing control of my demonic nature. I told myself if I descended completely into that beast, Aiko and Kazuki died for nothing when they defended me. Most important of all, my new self-discipline made me feel better, stronger, anchored to what I had been and wanted to be again. When the sun fully descended below the city horizon, I lifted myself into the darkening sky, relishing the wind. How long had it been since I had flown so high? I did not know. The lights of the city started to glow in neon splendor, hypnotically beautiful. The fierce wind whistled shrilly past my ears and whipped my hair. It was cold up here, but I did not mind. I was the white wind that promised death with a cold bite. The demon I had become loved this new name and embraced it. Shiroyo window. It breathed hissily. Breathed breathily in my within, pleased. Even as I was imposing a regimen of moral ethics to contain it, the demonic fox of my unbridled id had been doing some plotting of its own. I had come into direct opposition with myself. I decided to feed before I headed to Yota's club. In that time-honored tradition of a nogitsune, I disguised myself in a woman's form to lure my lecherous prey, a balding middle-aged man in a cheap suit with booze on his breath. But it was the monstrous Shiroyo window that manifested before his terrified eyes and stole his heart away in that dark alley. Let other yokai eat indiscriminately if they must. I preferred the sinner. I went in through the back door of the cage about an hour after nightfall. No one questioned my entrance or my right to be there. But expect it or not, the stares and whispers of staff followed me through the hallway. Hayate-san, I heard a voice. I turned to see the Daitengu from the night before. I smiled congenially. Shiro-san, I returned. That was the way I said his name, Shiro, with a slight pause between the syllables. I meant it to be friendly, and it seemed to amuse him. You are being initiated tonight, he announced cheerfully. Am I? I asked. He smiled. Hi, in front of everyone. I blinked and my aplomb faltered. Everyone? Shiro laughed. Oh yes, Yota-sama has been waiting a long time for one like you to complete our number. So come, Master Fox. We must perform our kabuki theater this night. The masses require a show of strength and fearlessness. Wonderful, I drawled as I followed. I was to wait in the wings until summoned. Before me was a black curtain and a flight of steps beyond it. I could not see anything else, but I heard the excited murmurs from the throats of the multitude of demons out on the main floor. I thought all of this seemed a bit much. I was only entering the service of this dragon lord as his loyal henchman. Why the big deal? I soon found out. Music, elegantly Asian and thrumming with war drums, began, and all voices ceased at once. A minute later, I heard Yoda's voice boom out as only a dragon's could, clearly heard above that theatrical music. Comrades, many of us have waited for this night, some of you decades, others centuries. I rejoice to tell you that your patience has been rewarded at last. Tonight, we begin our bid for the reclamation of New Tokyo. The crowd roared. When they quieted down, Yoda continued. Fate has at last granted our humble prayers. The kami themselves bless our cause. Now we go into action. The final piece has stepped onto the board, and tonight our war begins in earnest. A legion of demonic throats howled their excitement. Wait, war? What? I scarcely had time to think when a woman with a wireless earpiece urged me to go. I climbed the short flight of stairs with all the stately grace and dignity I could muster, daisho proudly displayed on my hip. The lighting and holovids made it appear we were standing on the terrace of an ancient temple, pimped out demon style. The sky was an angry explosion of color, like that of a storm preparing to break at sunset. And the crowd, so many yokai standing shoulder to shoulder. Every eye in the house was locked on me. Holy crap. That quick peripheral glance showed me that everyone in the audience was on the younger side for demonkind, 500 years of age or less on average. Ahead of me, the other 6 stood on the stage, each one wearing the mask and costume representing his or her respective breed of yokai. They fanned out in an eye-pleasing arrangement behind Yoda, who was the most impressive of us all. In shimmering garments, his golden hair a wild mane, the water dragon looked like an emperor standing in our midst. I walked to my boss with my head held high, falling to my knees center stage directly in front of him. With my back facing the crowd, I drew my katana and laid it at his feet. Only then did I bow, pressing my forehead to the stage floor in full supplication to my new master. Hayate, formerly of the clan Daisuke, do you forswear all oaths made to any other lord? I do, Great One. I mean, really, what else was I going to say? Will you take up my cause and serve with honor and supreme loyalty to smite my enemies and make my will known wherever you are sent? Hi, Yota-sama. Around my shoulders, he draped a white fur hanten, a winter kimono. This one was like wearing a soft, fluffy coat that matched my hair and tail. Over my head, he drew down a terrifying kitsune no men, a white fox mask with red markings, black stylized eyes, and, in the case of this one, a long vulpine snout with teeth bare down the length of the muzzle. Rise, Hayate, no kitsune, and be counted as a valued member among my sworn elite, white wind of the Yota clan. When I send you forth, my enemies will feel your bite and your claws. I sheathed my katana, stood, and took my place with the others. A spot was opened beside Shiro with his long-nosed Tengu mask. There was a wind machine, and it gusted so that our hair would blow dramatically to the side. It seemed ridiculous, but the mob below went wild for it. In that crowd, I caught the sight of my sweet Nekomata beauty, wide with horror rising up there in my new costume. Ah well, we did have one good night together. Too bad, she was fun. Together, you are 7, Yoda told us, holding up an open palm. Under my direction, we act as one and are unstoppable. He closed his fist and turned to face his demon horde. Too long has the old dragon ruled over Edo. Hirashi scarce understands New Tokyo. The dragon would have you starve and tell you only the fittest, the oldest should survive. I say that it is foolish to pit us against one another for limited resources, or risk discovery as more yokai are drawn to our city for survival. The old dragon would cling to the past until we all die. I say unto you, death to Hirashi, death to the old regime. New Tokyo is ours. And what would you know? The crowd chanted that crap right back at him. Death to Hirashi, death to the old regime. New Tokyo is ours. Then the floor exploded in roars and applause. My eyes went wide in mild horror, and I was glad of the mask that hid my face. F me, what have I gotten myself into? I thought as thousands of angry demons cheered, all but 2 Nekomata, one of which I knew rather intimately. Chikako gazed at me in despair, while her sister scowled. Obviously, she did not really care all that much about the war effort. And go there.
Hey, well done. Thank you so much. And contrary to all conversations in the green room, I think you're a fabulous reader. You did a wonderful job. Very, very cool. So at this time, I'm going to open up the room and let everybody ask questions or make comments as they like. So everybody feel free to turn on your microphones at this time. Does anyone have any questions for Xander?
I do.
Go ahead, Emma.
Xander, how much research did you have to do for this book?
Lots and lots. One of my favorite most valuable sources was YouTube. And I found so much about living in Japan and about how people act and interact there that, it really helped. So, and YouTube is, this is where I learned how to cosplay. It's one of the most valuable resources besides Wikipedia as a starting ground for stuff, and then finding books on yokai. And yokai.com also is one of my favorite resources. Okay. I just want to shout him out. Mike Myers of, Matthew Myers of yokai.com. It's getting close to Halloween, so.
Yeah.
It's like, what the heck?
I like the ears. So
they move too.
Even better. Does anyone else have questions for Xander?
I do.
Go ahead, Julianne.
I have a couple of things, actually. One, I wanted to know how long you have been writing seriously. And 2 is just a comment about your reading. I think handing it off to someone else, not anything against Diana's son, but your humor comes through in your voice.
I agree.
In such little intimate ways that I would hate to see that absent.
Thank you.
From the book. I think it's really special, especially from someone who knows zero about that culture and about any of that, but the humor, the little pieces just make it so much fun.
I have a lot of hidden humor in this that's just underneath, and it comes through and really the way he talks, because he is a fox, so he has this sarcastic drawl, and I'm really afraid somebody's not going to be able to capture that because it's just so.
Yes.
Oh, you do it very well.
Yes, you do. You do.
Thank you.
And how long have you been writing?
I would say I kind of got serious as soon as I got out of university. I went back to university late after taking a break from it, and just one of those people that went back in their late 20s to early 30s and just decided to become a straight A student. And then I went into history so that I could become a better writer. And Thank goodness for that, from all the way around.
Yeah.
That led me to taking Latin classes, and that also made me a better writer grammatically. It just that taught me grammar. Period. I understood grammar before that, but not to the same degree as when you're trying to like parse out Latin in front of all of your all of your fellow students, and we had to like read live and translate on the fly.
Yep.
So that just, you just have to pick it up and go. And I've noticed that within a month of taking Latin, my whole writing just transformed. Then it's about 2006, I got out of UMBC, and that's when I started doing the serious. Because I've been researching as I was going. I kind of would take my history books and I would like put in the margins like this is for Andre's story and this is for Thorne's story, and I would mark it out, or so I kind of was like doing my research in advance while I was doing my schooling, kind of cheating. But when I came to doing Hayate, that was I didn't take any classes on Japanese, so I just I had to go and do that from scratch.
Okay.
So it took me about 9 years to learn how to write a book, like 9 years of research, and like about 4 NaNoWriMos consecutive before I figured out how to finally finish a book from A to Z. And that was my Tuatha Danann epic Thorne stories, which is all like takes place in Wales, Ireland, and all that. And that took 9 years to research, and then it took an additional 6 years to write what I can't even mathematically just transcribe. I know it's like 1,300,000 to some 208 words. It's this huge string of numbers. That is the amount of words that this trilogy has, that it took me to write it. And
It's insane.
now I can write
But
a book a
okay.
year. So now I can write a book a year, but that was my training ground. That's how I learned. And it took 15 years really for me to teach me how to really write a book. And
Yeah.
I'm still learning.
Yeah,
It's like
this
Dean
is
Koontz says,
it's not
if
a
you can
simple
wince-
process. Yeah.
I remember like a Dean Koontz like interview I saw like some time ago. Like if you can wince and look back, you're heading in the right direction. Because it's when you look back and you go, "That's my best work," that you're just going downhill. So if I can look back and cringe, I'm doing good.
Any other questions for Xander?
Mine.
Go ahead, Iris.
Well, this is more to Hayate. What would Hayate say if he saw you dress as him?
He told me I was a knockoff and I couldn't do it right.
Good answer.
Like, what are you doing?
I
What are you
like it.
doing?
Good answer.
And I'm like, yeah, dude, I got to market you, and you're special. So I got to do special things for you, Hayate.
That's right. That's right. Any other questions for Xander? Go ahead, Luba.
I really loved your prologue. It was really intriguing and really drew me into the story, and yet not sort of overwhelming. So really good job on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was really, really well done. It was super visual. Your scene setup is fabulous. I just love it.
For me, the
And
reason that
I'm
has
looking
to-
forward to getting the books so I can read them.
Oh yeah, and soon, because apparently, according to tracking, I might get my books tomorrow. For my new one.
Fantastic.
I know. I'm like, But,
Excellent.
the thing about the prologue is the most important part for me is that last paragraph, because this is Hayate's way of saying, "Oh, you thought I was writing in third person limited or third person omniscient? No, this is first person. Deal with it." That is just the way he is. He constantly will twist and twist and twist, and you think you have him nailed down, and no, he'll twist on you constantly. So there's like all these plot twists, all of this stuff that I've laid out, that I've managed to lay out, like in advance. The first 4 books are almost their own arc. It's where he's in Tokyo, so all that has to be a closed arc loop. And being a plotter helps. I'm a plantser, so in that the plotting helps, because I know exactly how the story ends. I've already written the last epilogue, because there's only one prologue, the first, and there's only one epilogue at the very end of book 20, because the entire thing is one giant continuous story.
That's amazing. I can't even imagine taking on a project that big. I mean, I am continuously, I continuously get comments about how I want to write one book in each of the 35 major genres. And people say that's an amazing thing. And I'm like, no, really, it's just
not.
because I'm indecisive. I can't pick and choose. But the idea of doing 20 books in the same world with similar characters and same genre,
It's not really though,
baffles me.
because
I can't
each
imagine.
book is each book is going to be a little different genre, because like the first book is very much the transformational arc, but then the second book is a murder mystery, and then the first book is him institutionally dealing with the society that's changing around him, and in book 4 he rebels against that society huge and destroys everything, and it's just what he does, and then he keeps rolling, he just keeps moving on, and then the next part he's in Chicago and he's a shadow runner. And then the apocalypse happens, and he just all these different things. We have like all these different kinds of apocalypses. So we have a Mad Max apocalypse, and then we have watch people get themselves into small communities, and then people try to tear those communities apart by trying to prey on them. And we get to watch all these fun things happen that happens in history over and over again, but it's a little
That's
different.
very cool. It's very
Because
cool.
you have an immortal character, you can just watch it just flow.
I'm
eyes.
super excited about reading your work. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Does anyone else have questions for Xander? We're coming close to the end of our time together this afternoon. Go ahead, Julian.
If no one else does, I do.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to know how Xander's mother introduces her son to her.
Good
As the
question.
author, that's what she's proud. She's obscenely proud, and this is her son, the author. It just does not, that is her big thing. She is so glad I'm finally writing and publishing books, even if I'm doing it myself. She's just super happy.
Okay.
That's great. How nice to have that kind of support. How wonderful. Any other questions or comments for Xander before we draw our time to a close here?
Yeah, I was going to say the prologue, as you're reading it, it was vaguely reminiscent of the opening, a kind of a combined Twilight Zone and Outer Limits.
That in part, and also if you think about it, a little bit of Highlander, the very beginning. From the dawn of time they came, moving silently down through the centuries, living many secret lives, waiting to seek the time of the gathering, when the few who remain would battle to the last. Yeah, I just realized I can't remember like what I said 5 minutes ago, but I can remember that. I love being in my 40s. What can I say?
I've got that.
It gets better.
Yeah, it does.
Doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
Yeah, and it's a preview of things to come.
Yeah.
For real.
Unfortunately, we're coming to the end of our time. I'm running out of time. I know we could spend another hour or two talking to Xander. Xander, I really appreciate you coming out and doing this in costume for Halloween. That's super, super cool. I appreciate your bravery in that.
And real quick, this is my inspo for Yoda. So if you want to know what Yoda looks like when he's not in dragon form, I actually have a little Yoda.
That's so cool. I love that you decorated your house that way and everything. It's very, very cool. I mean, talk about full immersion. It's awesome. I love it. Thank you everybody for coming this afternoon. This was so cool. These just keep getting better and better. We're just going to keep doing these because it's so much fun. We are doing another one tonight at 7:00 with Peggy, right, Peggy? Yep. Yes. We're going to do Peggy tonight. So everybody come back later tonight and see Peggy. In the meantime, I will put Xander's book link up on our Facebook page so you guys can find his work that way. And you can connect with him through our Facebook page as well. Thank you, everybody. Excuse me. Thanks for coming. And this is when it happens. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.